time, we have a Wonder Woman. She ought to be on film. So we're lucky to have her on our Zoomer Times TV channel. She's spectacular with so many things. I don't even know where to start. So welcome to our show, Dr. Jenny.
Thank you so much, Anita. Thank you for having me.
You know, Dr. Jenny, you are the woman of what the 2020 really is all about. Someone who has made a name. Your name's great, but as you accomplished so many things. I know you have a family, but you are so enthusiastic. I was reading your resume, and I'm very much into the CBD products, and I see what you, of course, have really gotten into as a physician. You're able to prescribe the the cannabis, and I don't, before we talk about that, why don't you tell people a little bit about what your passion is and how long you've been practicing this wonderful medicine that you practice?
Okay, well, I'm an integrative functional preventionist. So what that means is I'm a big believer of advocating for the consumer and helping them to get rid of the Band-Aids for boo-boos. And America has got a lot of Band-Aids for a lot of boo-boos, right? Most often you will see a patient go to a traditional doctor, allopathic medicine is what it's called, and that doctor will be prescribing Xanax, Prozac, Wellbutrin, yada, yada, all of the Band-Aids for boo-boos, right? And then what I tell my patients is that, okay, your patient, you're not Prozac deficient, you're not Wellbutrin deficient, you're not Xanax or lisinopril or Viagra deficient. What is the root cause? What is the underlying problem of whatever ailment that you have? There's symptoms, right? I don't believe in diseases, I believe in deficiencies. And what that means is, what is your body deficient in that's causing you to manifest the symptom of insomnia, of depression, of hyperactivity, of not being able to focus, of anxiety, of, I mean, the list goes on, right? High blood pressure, MS, Parkinson's, all of this stuff can be prevented. And it's called, focusing on the biochemistry of the body. And that's what I am. I'm a biochemist. So I'm like the engineer for the car, for the human car, all right? If we taught the consumers how to maintenance their vehicles, then they would be able to prevent and reverse disease by activating their innate immune system. We have a wonderful body that knows how to heal itself, but as long as it has all of those tools that it can go and it can pick and select. Like, for example, I had a call this morning, Anita, 2 patients with COVID, and they had really high temperatures for 3-4 days. And I said, why am I not going to your house? Let me go and send my providers to your house and do an IV drip of vitamin D, of zinc. These are 2 vitamins and nutrients that stop the replication of viruses and gets rid of 87% of flu and cold symptoms. Why isn't every doctor practicing like this, giving the body exactly what it needs to get rid of, their symptoms? And my patient called me today and said, Dr. Jenny, you just saved me weeks in a hospital when everybody else is going to the ER. In 24 hours, you got rid of my fever with melatonin and CBD. That's phenomenal. So as the biochemist and a naturopath, I'm just very passionate about people. I'm very passionate about getting people off of these toxic pharmaceutical drugs that have a longer list of side effects than they do benefits. I mean, look at the commercials, Anita, with these commercials. Side effects include brain aneurysms, blood clots, abnormal bleeding, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, sometimes death. It's like, who wants to take these pills? And we have to remember that these big pharmaceutical medications are synthetic versions of what naturally occurs in your body. Why would you give yourself a poison, a chemical that doesn't belong in your body to begin with? It doesn't make any sense.
Dr. Jenny, I have to tell you that for years, Florida did not even recognize naturopaths. And it was a shame, because I always believed that was the appropriate, that was much better than actually an MD, because you study just everything you've been talking about. Now they have allowed it, and I'm so glad that you're there, but you're now on the West Coast. Where do you actually practice? The West Coast of Florida?
West Coast of Florida. Florida.
Now, are you doing any telemedicine so people over here can talk with you?
Yep, I'm licensed in all 50 states, and I can ship medications into all 50 states, and I'm doing all of the telemedicine just like we're doing here with the Zoom. And I use a HIPAA compliant electronic healthcare medical record platform. So my patients can communicate with me. My patients send me text messages. They have access to me pretty much 24 hours a day, which not many providers will do that. But they don't abuse it, but they do. Some patients, when they go to a grocery store, they want to know, can I buy this? Does this have anything synthetic in it? And I want to make sure I'm eating something that's a whole food, that's not genetically modified. So I'm teaching a lot. I'm educating my patients, and I'm educating the patients of other doctors as well, because I have 110,000 doctors in my network that now,
I'm sure that's true. And actually, cannabis, I mean, this is the big thing now. And there are people I know who've just had all sorts of operations and they're in pain. And I said, why aren't you using medical marijuana? I'm going to use that word instead of cannabis so people understand that. And they just seem to be afraid of it. And I guess there aren't enough physicians around here who really have the skills or the knowledge. And so it's very important that you, and I see all the organizations you're involved in, that you do that, you help them.
Yes, that's correct. And there's still a stigma around cannabis, around marijuana, right? And you're right, people recognize the word marijuana, but what it really is cannabis. And you have a system called the endocannabinoid system, which regulates all of the cannabinoids in your body. So a system that God put in place that regulates all of these chemicals in our body called cannabinoids, just like we have a system in place that regulates red blood cell production or white blood cell production, and a system in place that regulates hormones called the endocrine system, right? So God, within our mechanics, created the endocannabinoid system, and it starts in the brain, neurological, CB1 receptor, and then in the gut, CB2 receptor. And with those two receptor sites, it signals those presynaptic and postsynaptic neurons, those nerve endings. And what cannabinoids do is it sends a chemical charge with those synaptic nerve endings. And it helps to modulate and make sure that everything else in your system is working in accordance to how it was designed to work with.
So if someone has high blood pressure and they would come to you, you're not going to put them on pharmaceuticals. First, you're going to look at other things, aren't you? What would you do? Let's just say it's a simple thing to talk about. See, then people understand what happens here.
Yes. So what I would do is I would start by looking at the hormones, a full hormone panel. So I would look at progesterone, testosterone, thyroid, a complete thyroid panel. And I would also look at nutritional markers. So enzymes, vitamins, minerals, electrolytes, probiotics, essential fatty acids, and even do neurotransmitters. So I'm looking at the full body and seeing, okay, where's the disconnect? Why does this person present with high blood pressure? And it could be because they don't have enough testosterone. It could be because their thyroid is low. It could be because they don't have enough vitamin B6 or folate or B12. You see the different things that are associated with high blood pressure. Could be an amino acid deficiency. But once the panel comes back, I tell the patient, okay, here's why you have high blood pressure. Now let's go ahead and give you what your body's deficient in. Your blood pressure can get normalized again. And most people, it's as simple as giving them a couple B12 shots every single week, and their blood pressure goes back to normal.
So B12 shots help people with high blood pressure?
Yes, because it helps them with their red blood cell production. It hydrates those cells, that their cells start to look ghost-like. They start to cluster together. It's called protein linkage from bad eating habits, from bad dieting, right? And then I put them on a protocol that helps them to cheat every single week, but gives them, the freedom. It's a matter of when you're eating your food, how you're eating your food. And of course, I tell everybody, avoid all the processed junk, right? Avoid all the crap, the carbohydrates, the refined sugars, right, the alcohol, and
salt. No salt.
Yep.
And do you also suggest exercise, and how do you get people who are anxious to, I mean, I know the marijuana will help with a lot of that, won't it?
CBD in particular. Not all of the chemicals in the marijuana are as important and as crucial as CBD. I call CBD the non-psychoactive cannabinoid. It helps with anxiety. It helps with energy. It helps with focus. It helps with neurogenesis, so patients with Alzheimer's, memory loss, dementia. So it literally, and all the studies show it, literally regenerates brain cells. I mean, that's exciting. My grandma had Alzheimer's. I wish I knew then what I know now, because I watched her pass away from Alzheimer's disease. I would have pumped her full of CBD.
Yeah.
And all of my patients that start taking CBD tell me my memory is improving. I have more energy. I feel like I'm absorbing my vitamins better. They do. And they start losing weight.
Of course, you're so enthusiastic. I can see someone going to you and they just want to be around you anyway. And then you're doing this good stuff. So tell me though, as when you were a little girl, what made you become interested, first of all, in medicine and then with naturopathic medicine? How did that do that?
Oh my goodness, yeah. When I was a little girl, my mother was a nurse, still is a nurse, and she was on top of all of the, no high fructose corn syrup, no synthetic sugars before it even became a thing. She would never feed me Coca-Cola products or feed me fast food. And she's like, oh, this stuff is garbage. It's going to cause this. You just wait and see. This is unnatural. And so I really grew up around a serial, preventionist, I should call her, right?
Yes.
And I would go to nursing homes with her because she would work in nursing homes and she was a private healthcare nurse. And I'd watch her take medications away from the patient, and she would start putting them on natural vitamins, and they would start getting better. And I remembered that. And when I was a private duty nurse for a while, I didn't like that my patients would pass away. I said, oh my gosh, this is so sad. They're dying of MS, of Parkinson's, of diabetes, of Alzheimer's disease, of dementia. I was like, this is not a quality of life. These people are just existing. They're not living. What's the point of life if you're in pain? What's the point of life if you can't remember who your loved one is when you go to see them and they can't remember? My grandma couldn't remember who I was. How sad is that? I don't want to live a life like that. I don't want to live a life where I don't know who my grandchildren are or my children are, right? I said, I want to live. And a lot of my patients come and they tell me, they're like, I want to live. I don't want to just exist. Help me to live a life that's pain-free. And I do that naturally. And when I was a little girl, I loved old people and children. That was my favorite. So I love the geriatric, community, and I love the little children because there's not enough research and not enough funding for pediatric care. And I feel the same with elderly too. I feel like they're just kind of pushed to the side. We put them in a prison called a nursing home, right?
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yes, we don't want to do that, right?
Right. It's like they're right in the amount of abuse that happens in these nursing homes too, because they don't have the right mind, so they can't really speak up for themselves. So my passion really came from that, working in a nursing home with my mother, and then a personal experience of having debilitating migraines. And I remember, Anita, sitting in a biochemical class, and my professor was going through the sugar pathways. And he was talking about fructose, sucrose, and glucose. And I'm looking at that pathway, that chemical chart, and I'm like, wait a minute, where's high fructose corn syrup in that chemical chart? And he's looking at me, there's no such thing as high fructose corn syrup in our body. I said, well, what am I drinking? And I picked up a bottle of Gatorade, and I'm like, it says high fructose corn syrup here. I thought that was
right.
And he's like, no. And I'm like, wait, I get migraines every day. Could that be the cause of me getting these migraines every single day? He says, bingo, you are absolutely right. You are a scientist and an investigator, And I said, oh no. And I got mad. I got really upset about that because I'm thinking how many people are out there are taking, and drinking and eating foods that they think are nourishing our bodies, but instead generating our bodies. That's where the passion came in. Because the moment I gave up Gatorade and the moment I started watching and reading labels and realizing, oh my gosh, there's a bunch of carcinogens and cancer-causing inflammatory ingredients. I said, the world needs me. I need to get this message out. So I really did. I became a very, I'm very unapologetic about it. And I'm fighting up against the grain because we have the big pharmaceutical companies that own everything in medicine, don't they? They own the insurance companies, they own the pharmacies, they own the manufacturing facilities, and they own the clinics and the hospitals.
I started out saying that I had a Wonder Woman on my show, and now I really know it's terrific. It's Dr. Jenny. And Dr. Jenny, if someone wants to get in touch with you, do you have a website that they could go to? Tell us.
www.agevital.com. Age, like what is your age? A-G-E, vital.
Agevital.com. And they can then get in touch with you. Yes, because we need to really clone you, actually. Because I'm loving what you're saying. I really would like to have more connection with you. You are right on, and we just don't hear people talking like this. And even though we're in, of course, this horrible virus situation, and I'm sure, are you getting patients with this, and are you helping them?
Absolutely. All my patients that have come back COVID positive, I treat them with high dose vitamin D, high dose zinc. Vitamin D, again, gets rid of all of the symptoms of cold and flu, right? So 87%, you can look this up, you can go to PubMed, you can go to NCBI, vitamin D and cold, vitamin D and flu, and you'll see the years and years of research. It's there, the data is there. Zinc stops the replication of COVID, so it stops viruses right in its track, and not just COVID, herpes, virus, the simplex, the zoster. I mean, there's multiple different viral infections, really great for patients with HIV and AIDS. I think if there's a pandemic, it's a pandemic of malnourished individuals. People are not being fed the proper nutrients that help them to fight off disease. Our body's been fighting off disease since the beginning of time, but because our foods are crap, right, and our medicine is crap, people start to degenerate a lot faster, and their quality of life starts to diminish. So I want people to know vitamin D, zinc, vitamin C, those three things right there, that should be in their cupboard, whether it's an oral solution or a capsule to swallow, because I make both of them. I make them in spray forms, I make them in injectable forms, and
so you have, well, that's very important. So you have these products that you will sell to people if they need it. And so on your website, do you show this?
Yep, immune boosting packets, even the masks for COVID, I have those, and I have injectable packets too, and I'm doing free telemedicine consults next week, all next week. I'm seeing patients for free. That's how passionate I am.
Oh, so, that's absolutely wonderful. So they're going to go to vitalage.com. Vital aging?
Nope, agevital.com.
Oh, I'm sorry, the other way, agevital.com.
Yeah, agevital.
Right? Oh, yeah, I see that now, agevital.com. That's good. That's good. And so you are actually, when you say you're a naturopath, are you able to handle insurance also for people?
Insurances don't like to cover anything that makes you sick. Yep.
That's terrible. Absolutely terrible.
I work with patients and I have different protocols that fit every budget. The end result's always going to be the same. The only difference is someone with a bigger budget, I call it my Lamborghini protocol, right? They're going to get results in 90 days. Whether, they'll be healthy, I put them through transformation, or it's a 6 month or 9 months. So, but hey, as long as they're getting there and the end result's the same, I'm always going to work with them.
And where actually is your office on the west coast of Florida?
1618 Main Street, Sarasota, Florida.
I'm sorry, what?
1618 Main Street, Sarasota.
Oh, it's here in Sarasota. That's what I wanted to know. And have you always lived in Sarasota?
I've lived here for 30 years.
Ah.
Right. Minus years of college, up in Pensacola, Florida. Yep. But I love Sarasota. It's a gem.
It is.
Little city. It's kind of like I call it Little Europe.
No, it is. It's beautiful. And of course, I'm sure you don't mind if I share what you told me when you first got on, that you have 4 children.
I have 4 kids. I'm a
Four
I'm
children.
at the lab making
I mean,
blood.
you look fantastic. 4 children, and are they boys or girls, or how old are they?
3 girls, age 5, 8, and 10. And I have one boy, he's 13.
Oh, that poor kid.
They're like little mini versions of me. And my son is I told him, you're going to be the perfect husband one day.
Yes, yeah, he
He really
will.
knows how to handle women now.
That's right. He understands everything. Right. So, so someone could get in touch with you, and they would, then you would set up an appointment with them, and you would do this over the phone. Well, now I don't know if you use Zoom or you do the telemedicine, however you do that, and then you prescribe. So you really don't have to see someone in person.
Well, especially with COVID going on, it doesn't make any sense not to do the telemedicine because I can do a phone consult or we can do a face-to-face like this. I usually like to see who I'm talking to, because then I can tell a lot by their facial expressions because a lot of people will
So
fib a
you
little.
don't have to check their blood pressure. They should do it themselves, right? You don't have to do any of that.
No, I usually ask them to do it themselves or to go into a grocery store and have that done. But yeah, I'm like I said, I'm a preventionist. I'm looking at laboratory work and I'm analyzing their
Ah,
deficiencies. Yep.
so you send them to a laboratory for certain tests,
Yep.
then you can analyze those tests and think of what you have to do. Do you ever prescribe pharmaceuticals?
Oh, everything is prescription. They're just all functional prescriptions, meaning I'm prescribing things that make people healthy. Side effects include better memory, increased libido, weight loss, muscle mass increase, hair growth. So
Right.
only good side effects, right? I'm going to make a commercial like that. So I'm prescribing B12, I'm prescribing amino acids, probiotics, and I make all of that stuff in-house.
Is
Yep.
that right?
All bioidentical, meaning it's natural to the body. I'm not using synthetic. For example, folic acid. You know what folic acid is, right?
Yes, I do. I do.
You might
And
think, oh, folic acid is something good to take, right? And I tell
I
people
get it, I think, for my spinach, don't I?
you get it naturally from your spinach, as long as it's not from a GMO'd spinach.
Right, right. No, organic, but I also do hemp. I have hemp powder that I put in my drinks. And yeah, and there's lots of good stuff. I probably wish you lived here, would even be easier for me, but I want to have a relationship with you because you absolutely speak the way that I think. And I know my mother early on, she used to beg me to eat oatmeal. I didn't like oatmeal, so she was so ferocious about it. She said she used to pay me. I'll give you 25 cents if you'll have oatmeal. And so I liked oatmeal. And actually, I have some cooking on my stove right now. I love oatmeal now. And I find that oats, we know oats are so good for you.
I had to do that with my son. 25 cents. I made my son, I said, I'll give you $20 to try sushi. And now it's his favorite food.
Right.
He has sushi every day. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, but yeah, you have to drive your kids, right?
And I just bought a very big watermelon. I'm having a lot of watermelon too, because we know that that's great. Because I do tend to have some high blood pressure. And so I'm thinking I eat a lot of beets. I eat all the things that I'm supposed to eat for it. But unfortunately, I am on blood pressure medicine because that's what the doctor said I should be. And I never knew that I didn't ever bother me with anything. But
Right. So then what I would do with you is have a goal to get you off of the blood pressure med and replace it with what God intended to lower blood pressure with, right?
yes.
You're on these, blood pressure medications, lisinopril, HCV. I mean, there's so many different ones. Enalapril. I don't know which one you're on, but that would be my goal because if you look at the side effects of those blood pressure medications,
Right.
it depletes you of your electrolytes. And a lot of patients will come to me and they have cramping in their legs or in their arms or in their thighs. They get leg cramps. They start getting leg cramps the longer they're on them. And I'm like, well, that's because you're on a statin or you're on a blood pressure medication. They're like, oh my gosh, you're right, Dr. Jenny. I did start taking that. And then I start lowering it the natural way.
Yeah, and I'm sure people listening have a lot of other problems, and this is making a lot of sense to them. We know people with restless legs, with migraines, with so many things, and they just take more medication. But let's just, in the time we have left, let's talk about the medical marijuana. So you are licensed on that, because you know there aren't a lot of doctors who have jumped into that. But are a lot of your patients on that for pain?
Oh, yes. I'm a biochemist and a naturopath, so I speak internationally on the endocannabinoid system, on cannabis. There's not an event that I haven't spoken on, just to educate and help patients, you know, navigate the whole entire cannabis industry and world, because you do have a lot of cannabis curious patients, is what I call them. And I do have a clinic here where I hire providers, MDs, DOs, that issue the cannabis cards. But I do grow my cannabis. I have farms in different states.
You grow, wait, slow down. So you actually, I was just going to ask you that. So you know where the cannabis is coming from?
Yep, 'cause I'm growing.
You actually have a farm yourself?
I have a farm in Oregon.
Oh, you are. I told you you were a Wonder Woman when I started this.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. And then other people can buy it from your farm.
And so I make
I'm sure it's organic, and I'm sure it's all been tested perfectly, hasn't it?
and it's being made by pharmacists and clinicians. So, because it's not really regulated right now, you know, it's minimally regulated. So you have so many people jumping into the space, and my mentality is, okay, we're calling this medicine, but not everybody that has a dispensary is a doctor or a medical professional. You have, just because you grew cannabis, marijuana in your garage or in your backyard since you were 12, doesn't make you a geneticist, it doesn't make you a pharmacist. So people have to be cautious to make sure that who's handling my cannabinoids, because I see a lot of, you know, bad cannabis products out there. It's watered down, like snake
right.
oil. The potency, I've tested it. The FDA goes around testing different products. The FDA tested over 100 products, and what was on the label was not what was in the bottle. So that's dangerous, and that I take that personally, because it makes the medical profession look bad, right?
Yes.
Calling it medicine, it should have been in the pharmacy sector from the
Well, you know, a lot of the vitamin companies years ago, they found that things weren't in the vitamins either, but we've just now going to run out of time. But I'm going to get back in touch with you, because you need to do something with us. I'm the publisher of a magazine called BoomerTimes, and I just love who you are and what you do, and I feel so privileged to have had you on our show today, Dr. Jenny. So wonderful. Yes, thank you. I feel that way about you too. Okay, well, thank you so much. Go back and do those good things, please. Okay, it's Anita Finley signing off with Dr. Jenny. Goodbye.